The FA are just one several hunting-gathering societies in Africa. They make their home in the Uturi forest in Democratic Republic of Congo. Like their ancestors, the modern-day FA live in small groups between 10 and 100 members, all of whom are related. In the FA society, women are gatherers. They walk through the forest, searching for roots, yams, mushrooms, and wild seeds. FA men and older boys do all the hunting. Sometimes they gather into groups to hunt antelope called dukers. As a respected older male such as father, uncle, or father-in-law, typical serves as a group leader. Although members of the group listen to and value this man's opinion, he does not give orders as a chief. They believe that descendants of common ancestors, besides living members, our lineage includes past generations and future generations within a lineage members who strong loyalty to one another. These societies, known as stateless societies, did not have centralized system of power. Instead, authority in stateless society was balanced among system lineage of equal power. In African societies, the way society traces lineage determines how position and property are passed on and what groups individuals belong to. Members of patrilineal society trace their ancestors through their fathers. In a matrilineal society, children trace their ancestors through their mothers. Young men from matrilineal culture inherit land and wealth from their mother's family. However, in the matrilineal society, men usually hold a position of authority. Age-set system. In many African societies, young people form close ties to individuals outside their lineage through the age-set system. An age set consists of young people within a region who are born during a certain time period. Each age set passes through clearly identified life stages such as warrior or elders. Ceremonies mark the passage to mark and show each new stage. Men and women have different life stages and each stage has its own duties. Important societies like the Igbo use the age system to teach discipline, community service, and leadership skills to the young ones. Lineage believe that they are descendants of common ancestors.
A devout Muslim, Mansa Musa went on a Hajj to Mecca from about 1324 to 1325. When he returned, he ordered the building of new mosques at the trading cities of Timbuktu and Gao. Travel of Ibn Battuta, one of the most Mansusa's successors, prepared to receive a traveler in history named Ibn Battuta, a native of Tangier in North Africa. Ibn Battuta had traveled for 27 years, visiting most of the countries in the Islamic world. Ibn Battuta visited Timbuktu and other cities in Mali. He found he could travel without fear of crime as a devout Muslim. He praised the people for their study of Quran. Ibn Battuta left Mali in 1353. Most of the Mansa Musa's successors lacked his ability to govern well. In addition, the gold trade that had been the basis of Mali's wealth shifted eastwards. New gold fields were developed elsewhere. Like Sandiata, Mansa Musa was a skilled military leader who exercised royal control over the gold salt trade and put down every rebellion. His 10,000 army kept order and protected Mali from attack. Under Mansa Musa, the world empire expanded to roughly twice the size of the Ghana Empire. Sandiata conquers an empire. Mali's first great leader, Sandiata, came to power by crushing a cruel, unpopular leader. Sandiata proved to be as great leader in peace as he had been in war. He put able administrators in charge of Mali's finances, defense, and foreign affairs. Mansa Musa expands Mali. Sandiata died in 1255. The most of them was Mansa Musa, who may have been Sandiata's great-nephew. Mansa Musa ruled from about 1312 to 1322. By 1235, the Kingdom of Mali had emerged. Its founders were Mande-speaking people who lived south of Ghana. Mali's wealth, like Ghana's, was built on gold. As Ghana remained weak, people who had been under its control began to act independently. In addition, miners found new gold deposits farther east. This caused the most important trade routes to shift eastwards.
The Mutapa Empire. According to Shona oral tradition, a man named Mutocha left Great Zimbabwe about 1420 to find a new source of salt. Traveling north, he settled in a valley with fertile soil, good rainfall and ample wood. Then he founded a new state to replace Great Zimbabwe. As the state grew, its leader Mutocha used his army to dominate the northern Shona people living in the area. He forced them to make payments to support him and his army. Mutapa rulers. This conquered the people called Mutocha and his successors Mwende Mutapa, meaning conqueror or master pillager. The Portuguese, who arrived on the East African coast in the early 1500s, believed Mwende Mutapa to be a title of respect for the ruler. The term is also the origin of the name of the Mutapa Empire. By the time of Mutota's death, the Mutapa Empire had conquered all of what is now Zimbabwe, except the eastern portion. By 1480, Mutota's sons, Matope, claimed control of the area along the Sea River to the Indian Ocean coast. The Mutapa Empire was able to micro deposited in nearby rivers and streams. In addition, Mutapa rulers forced people in conquered areas to migrate for them. The rulers then go to the coast city-state in exchange for luxuries. Even before the death of Matape, the southern part of his army broke away. However, the Mutapa dynasty remained in control of the smaller empires. In the 1500s, the Portuguese tried to conquer the empire. When they failed to do so, they resorted to interfering in Mutapa politics. They helped to overthrow one ruler and could replace him with one they could control. This signaled increasing European interference in Africa in centuries to come.
The East Coast trade cities. Villages along the East Coast began to develop into important trade cities. By the 1100s, wave of Bantu-speaking people had migrated across Central Africa to the East Coast. There, they established farming and fishing villages. Slowly, the existing coastal villages grew into bustling seaport, built on trade between East African merchants and traders from Arabian, Persian, and India. As trade increased, many Muslim, Arab, and Persian traders settled in these port cities. Arabic blended with the Bantu language to create the Swahili language. Persian traders moved south from the Horn of Africa, a triangular peninsula near Arabian. They brought Asian manufactured goods to Africa and African raw material to Asia. In the coastal markets, Arab traders sold porcelain bowls from China and jewels and cotton cloth from India. They brought African ivory, gold, tortoise shell, ambergris, leopard skin, and rhinoceros horn to carry to Arabia. By the 1300s, more than 35 trading cities dotted the coast from Mogadishu in the north to Kilwa and Sofala in the south. Like the empires of West Africa, this south port grew wealthy by controlling all incoming and outgoing trade. Some cities also manufactured trade goods and export. For example, weavers in Mogadishu and Sofala made cloth. Workers in Mombasa and Malindi made iron tools. The city-state of Kilwa. In the 1331, Ibn Battuta visited Kilwa. He admired the way that its Muslim ruler and merchants lived. Rich families lived in fine houses of coral and stone. They slept in beds inlaid with ivory, and their meals were served on porcelain. Wealthy Muslim women wore silk robes and gold and silver bracelets. Kilwa grew rich because it was as far south on the coast as a ship from India could sail in one monsoon season. Therefore, trade goods from southerly region had to funnel into Kilwa so Asian merchants could buy them. In addition, in the late 1200s, Kilwa had seized the port of Sofala, which was a trading center for gold mine inland. By controlling Sofala, Kilwa was able to control the overseas trade of gold from southern Africa. As a result, Kilwa became the wealthiest, most powerful coastal city-state. Portuguese conquest. In 1488, the first Portuguese ship rounded the southern tip of Africa and sailed north. Looking for a sea route to India, they wanted to gain profit from the Asian trade in spices, perfume, and silk. When the Portuguese saw the wealth of the East African city-states, they decided to conquer those cities and take over the trade themselves. Using these shipboard cannon, the Portuguese took Sofala, Cuba, and Mombasa. They burned parts of Cuba and built forts on the sides of Cuba and Mombasa. The Portuguese kept their ports and cities on the East African coast for the next 2 centuries.
Muslim states. While stateless societies developed south of the Sahara, Islam played a vital role in North Africa. After Muhammad died in 632, Muslims swept across the northwest part of the continent. They converted many by the sword of conquest and others peacefully. By 670, Muslim ruled Egypt and had entered the Maghreb, the part of North Africa that is today the Mediterranean coast of Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. As Islam spread, some African rulers converted to Islam. These African Muslim rulers then based their government upon Islamic law. Muslims believe that God is a higher authority than any human law. Islamic law. In Islam, following the law is a religion obligation. Muslims do not separate their personal life from their religious life, and Islamic law regulates almost all areas of the human life. Islamic law helped to bring order to Muslim states. However, various Muslim states had ethnic and cultural differences. Among those who converted to Islam were the Berbers, fiercely independent deserts and mountains deliver. The Berbers were the original inhabitants of the North Africa. While they accepted Islam as their faith, many maintained their Berber identities and loyalties. Two Berber groups, the Almoravids and the Almohads, founded emperors that united the Maghreb under Muslim rules. Almoravid reformers in the 11th century, Muslim reformers founded the Almoravid Empire. Its members came from a Berber group living in the Western Sahara in what is today Mauritania. The movement began after the Berber Muslims made a Hajj or pilgrimage to Mecca. On their journey home, they convinced a Muslim scholar from Morocco named Abd Allah ibn Yassin to return with them to teach their people about Islam. Ibn Yassin's teaching soon attracted followers, and he founded a strict religious brotherhood known as the Almoravid. In the 1050s, Ibn Yassin led the Almoravid in an effort to spread Islam through conquest. After Ibn Yassin died in 1059, the Almoravids went on to take Morocco and found Marrakech. It became their capital. They overran the West African empires of Ghana by 1076. The Almoravids also captured parts of southern Spain, where they were called Moors. Almohads take over in the mid-1100s. The Almohads, another group of Berber Muslim reformers, seized powers from the Almoravids. The Almohads began as a religious movement in the Atlas Mountains of Morocco. The Almohads followed the teachings of Ibn Tumad. After the pilgrimage to Mecca, Ibn Tumad criticized the later Almoravid ruler for moving away from the traditional practice of Islam. He urged his followers to strictly obey
obey the teaching, the Quran of Islamic law. By 1148, the Almohads controlled most of Morocco and ended Almoravid rule. The new Muslim reformers kept Morocco as their capital. By the end of the 12th century, they had conquered much of the southern Spain. Stronger empires were about to emerge. The society in West Africa created empires that boasted economic and political power and strong links to trade routes.
West African civilization. While the Almohads and Almoravids were building empires in the North Africa, three powerful empires flourished in the West Africa. This ancient African empire arose in the Sahel, the Savannah region just south of the Sahara. They grew strong by controlling trade. In this section, you will learn about the West African empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Empire of Ghana. By AD 200, trade across the Sahara had existed for centuries. However, this trade remained infrequent and irregular because of the harsh desert conditions. The trade route crossed the savannah through the region farmed by the Sunni. With their payment, the king left them in peace to rule their own people. While Islam spread through North Africa by conquest, south of the Sahara, Islam spread through trade. Muslim merchants and teachers settled in states south of the Sahara and infused their faith there. Eventually, Ghana rulers converted to Islam by the end of the 11th century. Muslim advisors were helping the king run his kingdom. While Ghana African rulers accepted Islam, many people in the empire clung to their animistic beliefs and practices. In 1076, the Muslim Almoravids of North Africa completed their conquest of Ghana. Although the Almoravids eventually withdrew from Ghana, the war had badly disrupted the gold sought trade. As a result, Ghana never regained its power.
Islamic influences. Muslim traders introduced Islam to East African coast, and the growth of commerce caused the religion to spread. Even the smallest town has a mosque for the faithful. A Muslim sultan or ruler governed more cities. In addition, most government officials and wealthy merchants were Muslims. However, the vast majority of people along the East African coast held on their traditional religious beliefs. The Southern Africa and Great Zimbabwe. The gold and ivory that helped the coastal cities that go rich came from the interior of Southern Africa. In southeastern Africa, the Shona people established a city called Great Zimbabwe, which grew into an empire built on gold trade. The Shona people had settled the fertile water plateau between the Zimbabwe Sea and Limpopo River in modern Zimbabwe. The area was well suited to farming and cattle raising. Its location also had economic advantages. The city of Great Zimbabwe stood near an important trade route, linking the gold field with the coastal trading city of Sofala. Sometime after, Great Zimbabwe gained control of this trade route. From 12th century to the 14th century, it became the capital of thriving state. Its leader taxed the trader who traveled this route. They also demanded payment from less powerful chiefs. Because of this growing wealth, Great Zimbabwe became the economic, political, and religious center of its empire. But by 1450, Great Zimbabwe was abandoned. No one knows for sure why it happened. According to one theory, cattle grazing has worn out the grassland. In addition, farming had worn out the soil, and people had used up the salt and timber. The area could no longer support a large population. Almost everything that's known about Great Zimbabwe comes from impressive ruins. Portuguese explorers knew about this site in 15th century. Karl Marx, a German explorer, was one of the first Europeans to discover the remains of this stone dwelling in 1871. West Africa, also called Western Africa and the West of Africa, is the westernmost sub-region of Africa. West Africa has been defined as including 18 countries: Benin, Burkina Faso, the island nation of Cape Verde, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Liberia, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Nigeria, the island of St. Helena, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Sao Tome and Principe and Togo. The population of West Africa is estimated at about 362 million people as of 2016. The development of the region's economy allowed more centralized states and civilizations to form, beginning with the Nok culture that began in 1000 BC, the Ghana Empire that first flourished between the 9th and 12th centuries, which later gave way to the Mali Empire. In current-day Mauritania, there exist archaeological sites in the towns of Tishit and Douala that were initially constructed around 2000 BC and were found to have originated from the Soninke branch of the Mande peoples. Also, based on the archaeology of city of Kumbi-Saleh in modern-day Mauritania, the Mali Empire came to dominate much of the region until its defeat by Almoravid invaders in 1052. The Benin Empire was a pre-colonial empire located in what is now southern Nigeria. Its capital was Edo, now known as Benin City, Edo. It should not be confused with the modern-day country called Benin, formerly called Dahomey. The Benin Empire was one of the oldest and most highly developed states in the coastal hinterland of West Africa, dating perhaps to the 11th century CE. The Benin Empire was governed by a sovereign emperor with hundreds of thousands of soldiers and a powerful council rich in resources, wealth, ancient science and technology, with cities described as beautiful and large as Harlem.
Takes my eye.